What's up, Thor?
Hey man.
Dude, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, man. And one of the things I wanted to jump in right away with you is that you have a fight coming up for CJJ, and you shared something to me the other day that actually really resonated with me, and I wanted to share it with another jiu-jitsu friend. Would you mind sharing about that?
Yeah, I would love for you to, yeah, kind of like rehash how it hit for you. And I know um a lot of that was too in the moment, and it's just kind of, I know we talked a lot about overheating, just very physical sensations that are like a very clear block for you and have been. And I love like I love hearing guys actually speak about what blocks them from going to jujitsu, because it's not an issue that there is a block. Everybody has a block to get to jujitsu. Everybody has a block to training or whatever it is, if that's what they want to do. I just think I'm so far along in my journey where I've hit all the blocks, or most of the blocks of anybody that I've come up to. I've dealt with what you're dealing with. So I think I felt that with you.
Dude, what you said to me fucking resonated so much. It was like how much shame, how much guilt, how much pride, how much ego is there, and not and needing to be enough and actually trying to get after it. And I'm like, so I'm just a white belt, and I'm like, fuck, why am I going full throttle? Why am I trying to release everything as I possibly can? These are people that are supposed to help me train. I'm not supposed to be an expert. Why is my ego getting involved? And when I read through that paragraph, actually, it was more like probably about 20 lines, and I was like, ah, I just got my pee pee slapped. It was so true on everything that you said. I was like, holy shit.
Good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. It's kind of my MO to just slice into and just go straight direct to the heart. At least when it comes to jujitsu, which I love, but it's so built up in people's minds to be this our egos want to be good at fighting. We want to be known as fighters, protectors, warriors, but we are, it's like the same with being a lover. You want to be known as, a great partner, a great, husband, father, that kind of thing. But it's like, it's an art, it's an art. And I think the cool thing that I just kind of wake up to all the time is that, oh, I'm so far along in my jujitsu journey. And as I get to meet more veterans and more dudes and stuff like that, it's like, the key is there. And it's because you've shown vulnerability with me in other areas that I really needed, because it's a reciprocal relationship, like we met in this really awesome container where we were able to put our guards down, and you shared a lot of really valuable information to me when it comes to hitting rock bottom and fucking, what it feels like to have to like start over, rebuild, and just also we nerded out a lot on like psychology and depth psychology and the tarot and just some of these archetypes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We can really identify some of these limiting beliefs.
Yo, it's so true. It's like where we met was actually, like you said, it was kind of almost like a secret place because it was everybody in the container, and I'm not going to speak for it, but it's just we came there with a vulnerability. We came there to find some answers, find some truths, and we let down the ego. So it meant to me, it became like some of a how would I say, more of an authentic relationship at a quick rate. And I don't usually find that with many people. And when you and I just started spitballing about different stuff, and I was like, ah, I really like this guy. I think he actually has some really good insight. And dude, your energy was off the chain. It was like not in a negative way. It was just like it was radiating this positivity and the surplus of emotion. And you were really thoughtful about what you said before you really said it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the spirit, right? When you can get into those containers and there's some trust built into it, it's like I was saying at the end, well, in the middle of the ceremony, our mushroom ceremony, Saturday night, I kept telling Kelly, I was like, dude, I feel like my mind's breaking, but I'm letting it break because of this container. And I said that to you a couple times when you were graciously attempting to explain the tower card to me. and, and it's the storm, and it's just like I'm still on 6 grams of mushroom, and I'm loving it, but it's so heavy, it's so much sometimes. And in such a, when you can surrender to that, again, based on I trust you. I trust the guys that if we build trust through sharing our experiences, like laying down our woes. Like I don't like talking about the girl problems I'm having, like I don't like talking about my feelings like that, but it's so important because it's like it's the thing that exists and is my reality, whereas like everybody else is dealing with their heavy emotional thing that is their reality. And so we allow ourselves to break. And the thing is like death, there's never just death. There's always rebirth. It is like it's a hard fundamental truth for us to wrap our heads around. And yeah, I think that's the really beautiful thing about a space like that and the relationship that we're creating. It's like, all right, well, now we get to talk about it. Now we need to get to start to make sense of it and speak it out. And then other people resonate with it. It's like what you're doing with the podcast. I'm just so impressed and just like grateful for, you just your willingness, it's like to trust where the pulling of the threads leads, and like, because somebody's going to listen to this and they'll reach out to you, and who knows where it goes, and but it should, that love, that resonance should just go out and create more,
Mm.
and allow people to heal themselves, with understanding, like, non-judgment, of yourself, and opening up, and you know being.
So you talked about, like, we're talking about this love, this radiance, this conversation, this dialogue, and being around people of trust and conversation. And you talked about the podcast, and the big root of it to me is like getting to help people enough of an agitation to start to realize that we can have these conversations. And one of the questions I'd like to ask people is what started you on your own mental health journey? And what have you seen part of it? Like, how did it start to transform?
Yeah, okay. I think my whole life has been a mental health journey. It's mental health is I think the beginning of having vitality and physical health, and I think it's all connected, right? Because then even higher above that, or maybe if it's a circle or something, is your spiritual health, so it's all kind of like entangled together, your soul, your mental, and your physical, and we want to kind of find that alignment. And I always just started to conceptualize and build a conception and language around what that is in my life, because I've been anchored to wrestling, this thing that's in my DNA, at least on one level, my dad passed it down, like he was the first wrestler. But on another level, knowing where that comes from, way, way, way back down the genetic line, or just, whatever it was about my culture that, impressed upon me that this was the way for me. But I've had wrestling, as a um sort of this focal point of something that, and this desire, or like, this difficult thing that's kind of like got me through phases of my life, stages of my life, and then I would go back to it, to build resiliency, just something that I could like have as a constant, a consistent thing. So I think it starts pretty young. And I think if we all pull a little bit at our threads, like there's certain things that like keep us on our journey of like improving our mental health.
Hmm. Yeah, because it sounds like you went back to something that was tried and true, and it was like it was a place that gave you the peace. Also, you spoke about your dad being the first wrestler, and then if I remember correctly, he was really one of your hugest motivators to keep going forward with wrestling. And go ahead.
Yeah, him and my brother being an older brother, he you know, kind of set the example a little bit, you know. And then my dad was a big motivator as well, in the fact that like he he would provide the support, you know, get me to the practices. He was a coach, get me to the practices, put me in front of, put me in the competitions, things that like I had no control over. It's like that's at some age, it's just like, you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. And then, then they put me in it, and it's so I think it was the willingness, but then we're going to, summer tournaments when we can, traveling all over the state, going to summer camps, going to high school summer camps when I'm in middle school, like I was way ahead of, my class. I was the only guy that really, maybe one or two others, or whatever, that got the head start, in wrestling and in my small town, in my small community, so my dad just being the support, but then, my brother kind of being the rebellious side of it all, giving me that spirit of like, no, I'm paving my own path, like no one's telling me what to do, like and that became a tricky game, and that's when real mental health issues start to come in because, by the time I was in 8th grade, I had an opioid problem, a pretty bad one, um, morphine, Vicodins, and just, kind of embracing and milking, being a victim a little bit of like the pains of playing football and the pains of being a wild child, and so, how many times I ended up in the hospital, had mono, meningitis, just like constant burnout, and those I'd always milk, these experiences to get all these drugs. And just kind of long story short, I know we talked about this a little bit, but like my brother ended up overdosing, and he was kind of, a victim of that like fentanyl sort of opioid crisis, and he died in 2014. And so that's been a big shaper of, how I view mental health. Um, I had a very big, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it didn't seem like a tower moment, but like more of like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, I have all this potential in wrestling and I'm wasting it on, this girl I was seeing at the time and drugs, and so kind of reshaped my boundaries, stopped hanging out with certain people, stopped taking certain things, and really put all into wrestling at some point in my high school, and that really served to keep me on the right path. And so it was like a good mental health move.
Dude, usually mental health does start young, and we don't even realize it. And it's like we have these role models, like you said, your brother in a way, your dad and the other thing, and being in a small town. Fuck, these painkillers, they work, man. The opiates, they freaking work. They just knock you out. You feel so good on them, and it makes sense when we are in that journey of like, hey, this is what was going on, and I'm sorry about your brother's passing. I know that I shared that with you too. And opiates is a kick in the dick, man. I'm learning about this right now in school. About actually last semester, I was learning about in school how hard it is to withdraw from opiates. And people are like, oh, you're just addicted. Oh, just stop. It's not like that. It's so ingrained. You have all these tremors, withdrawals, then the shame and the guilt and everything else that comes along with it. And I know, but I'm actually really proud of you, man. They're actually kicking that habit and moving forward. The After you done wrestling and after you broke up with after the girl, I know you said that you went to school for psychology and then you wrestled in psychology and then you went to the Marine Corps. Tell me a little bit more about what actually led you down that path.
Yeah. Dad again, kind of built the framework up to like get me in front of a very specific coach. He found, he's found a bunch of things in my career. Like he found a wrestling camp um out in Montana that was, this amazing individuals that I'm still connected to this day. He found Wheaton College. My wrestling coach in college was a two-time Olympian. And so, he was, very motivated to get me in front of strong Christian men, which I appreciate. just based on the fact that there's just so much that I gleaned from that, like just found foundationally, like fundamentally about relationships and whatnot. And so, um, getting to Wheaton was really important. I had a pretty rough senior year of high school where I was having more girl problems. Um, kind of common theme in my life. um, but I was having girl problems my senior year and tore my ACL in football, lost my senior season. You know, I was ranked number one in the state. I wanted to be a state champ since I was a sixth grader, you know, like just lost my year, you know, and I was in a really good place up until that point. So it was like good and then terrible. But it it initiated sort of this process of like, hey, like once we get healthy, like we're gonna wrestle in college, and you know, and that just it got my foot in the door. I didn't know if my parents never went to college. My brother dropped out his first year. I wasn't supposed to go to college, dude. Like at least it's not in my genetics at least. And so I'm like, okay, and we visit Wheaton, and Coach Grunwald is just a savage of a man, and you know, sells my dad. My dad's sold, and you know, it's a pretty expensive school. And coming from not a lot of money and stuff, I was hesitant, but you know, they found a way with Army ROTC and some grants and whatever. We made it work, and you know, just a lesson in that too, because it wasn't like we made it work, but you know, I came out of school with 80 grand in debt, you know, and and that was tough, you know, that's a position, you know, that you put yourself in, and but I completely worth it. I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, money is money, and it is, you know, a lesson in and of itself. But um got to Wheaton my first year, and dude, so many demons came out that year. So many demons, so much mental health. Like if there's one year, from tearing my ACL all the way to like the end of my freshman year of college, like there's some good times in there, but darkness, bro. Like I cut so much weight my freshman year of college because I was trying to prove something. I was committed to getting on the varsity lineup. Like there was no way that I was going to be a backup, and so I had to cut weight to 141. And I did that because one, I told the coach I would do it. I told Coach Greenwald I would do it, and so I didn't want to be a man that goes back on his word because he wasn't strong enough or because he wasn't, you know, able to make willing enough to cut the weight for the team. And it was fine coming into the year. I was kind of like I was wrestling at like 140 in the summertime, so I thought, oh, like it won't be that hard to cut weight to get there. But when I got to college, and I'm meeting all these pretty girls, and we're all going to the weight room, and I'm meeting all these new wrestlers, and I'm getting teammates, and I'm, you know, the beginning of college, starting college is fun.
Hmm.
Like it's a good time. And so I put on 15 pounds for that first 2 months of college, and most of it was money, or like money. Most of it was like it was muscle is what I was trying to say. It was good weight, and I was athletic, and I was feeling really good. And then it just kind of went downhill because I committed to this weight class, and then wintertime rolls around in Chicago, and it's just brutal cold. I have no body fat. I made 140, so I cut from 168 to 141 pounds for the entire wrestling season, which is about 3 months long. And every weekend, maybe twice a week, I would have to make weight at 140. And then my team they call me like the team like Holocaust victim. Like I have images of me being like looking like a Holocaust victim, and like I gained, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it is actually ridiculous. It blows my mind. After regionals, my last match of the year, I gained 40 pounds in 3 days.
Jeez.
I didn't stop eating, I didn't stop drinking, and my body didn't get rid of anything until 3 days later. I started to digest it, and I started to actually pee and actually you know, get it out of my system because it was holding on to it like I was a Holocaust survivor. Like,
Hmm.
so that in perspective, I know it sounds really bad, and it is, it's traumatic, it was, but I created that reality, you know? And so I had to I had to unpack a lot of that, and I have a lot healthier relationship with my weight because of it, with my body because of it. and wrestling. Like it made me hate the sport, you know?
Dude, it's fucking brutal what type of shit you guys go through. I only wrestled for one season, and you just see people running around with trash bags around their stomach. They're like, "Oh, Thanksgiving? Nope, no, thank you. I'll smell the food, but yeah, I don't want to actually get the calories from smelling it."
Yeah.
It's just like the determination, the perspective, the actually the will to keep going forward, working your ass off, even though your body is telling you, "Please stop, please stop right now. I'm fucking overloaded." Um, Coach Grimwall sounded like a man that you really respected, and you wanted to make sure you showed up for him. Was that how your personality was for most of the people in your life?
Yeah. I think so. Showing up for people. I think that maybe even is where one of the bigger wounds that I've identified is like when I can't show up for people I really care about, when I can't, um, you know, be important or do a thing for them. And that's a good lesson to accept, you know, that we can't save everybody that we love, you know, and you just got to be who you are, you know.
And dude, the common theme, I actually was kind of laughing about it because in high school, all I wanted to do was chase women. When I was actually in the Marine Corps, when I was at your age while you were going to college, all I wanted to do was chase women. And drinking or partying or being seen and looking for those words of affirmation from other people, it's ridiculous. It's like, and being, I don't know if you have felt this way, but I know with myself was like not feeling good enough as a person. So what's really cool is, or what I needed at the time was words of affirmation. I needed words of affirmation from other people. And I thought at that time, sex was actually being a man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's part of our development, but it can't, you know, it can never be like the thing that, you know, validates, you know. It's
That I'm talking about, like that was post. That was more immature will. It's not now. And I know getting to know you a bit, it's not like that now. It's more of holy shit. It's like we reflect back on 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and this is what our identities were. And then through the course of healing, things started to change. And you said that a lot of your demons came out, and I know you talked about like the weight loss, and then also being the first person in the family getting a college degree. And my father, he got his GED when he went to Vietnam. My mother had her high school diploma when she came from Canada, and I was the I was the only other sibling besides my oldest sister to go to college. Like I was telling you, I'm going to post school. I'm going to graduate school after this, and or
yeah.
secondary. It's an odd feeling. It's like a very lonely feeling because you don't feel like you have somebody else not like helping you out or showing you what the ropes are. Because going to college, like, it's a lot of fun, but it's also a little bit crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really is, especially if are you doing your program online?
I'm doing my program online. I'm going to school full time and I work full time, and I'm doing this.
Yeah, bro.
And it's a very lonely perspective, but it's just that grind. Is that like I've met a lot of good people along the way that give me the words of affirmation that I need, which is my love language that I didn't realize I needed so much.
Yeah.
But I learned that when I reflected on my demons from the Marine Corps and then also from my childhood. And I know that you said that you joined the Marine Corps. You were an officer in the Marines.
Yeah.
Would you like to expand upon a little bit about that, leading men and women?
Yeah. I love my time from the Marine Corps. It was hard, and I didn't go into it with like the best maybe attitude towards authority. uh you know, and I doubt many young men do, but they're willing to be shaped by this authority. And I really I was to a certain extent. Like the Marine Corps, I understood I was going to have to fall in line in a way, but being an officer, I kind of thought maybe I'd get a little bit more autonomy to shape my destiny, which I did. But ultimately, I came out of it, you know, kind of confirmed that uh, the culture's version of leadership is it's pretty toxic, and you know, just perpetuates this broken system that we live in, which is very much masculine dominant, but you know, not dominate in a way that's like it's not balanced, you know. Um the way that we approach conflict and war and whatnot. But that's on the grand scale. On like a micro scale, I went into the Marine Corps, and I think anybody can do this. You can go into a place like the Marine Corps and you know test yourself and you know build some skills and build some people skills. And I found I met some of my favorite people, some people that are lifers, people that'll be a part of my life for forever. And so I think that's where the value is. And yeah, I kind of squeaked through. I had a weird path because I was really focused on getting on the Marine Corps wrestling team, and it took 2 years to kind of build the right relationships. But eventually, all the relationships were in place, and then it was like, okay, I'm about to get on the wrestling team. This is gonna be freaking sweet. And then COVID hits, and the vaccine comes down, and I've denied the vaccine. I put in a religious accommodation, and it actually served to get me even closer to the wrestling team because I got taken out of my job as a platoon commander and put into the S3 shop to be the training officer for the battalion. And while I was doing that, like a 9 to 5 job, my battalion commander, who was one of my really good friends to this day and a mentor of mine, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He ended up signing my my temporary assignment duty orders to the wrestling team to go wrestle for for the Navy at the Armed Forces Championship and then the U.S. Open, and so it all ended up kind of working out in my favor in that way. But it was yeah, it was a good 4 years. What was your time in the Marine Corps like, dude? I actually don't really know too much about your time.
So I did 4 years. I went enlisted. I went in 2004 to 2008. My my time when I got there, I didn't graduate high school at this time. I finished the last day of 12th grade. Wasn't doing the right thing. I went to boot camp, and that's kind of when I started to notice a little bit about the cult that I joined, which I was really happy about. But I went through MCT, went to comm school, almost failed out at comm school. What was interesting about it was one of my comm instructors. I met him overseas for my second tour, and I landed up teaching him about telecommunications because I already did another deployment, and he was just in schoolhouse. I did one tour overseas. Actually, did two tours overseas, I should say. I lost one of my good friends over there. That actually really shaped a lot of my journey. It was a huge down point. I lost a couple of friends that I actually met through the Marine Corps, the guys I served with my first platoon over there. One actually just completed suicide on Wednesday of this week. And I feel bad. I feel bad. It's not a definite suicide, but it's OD. He OD'd.
Yeah,
And a lot of us came back with our own journeys and our own scars and our own mental anguishes. And it was a very, it wasn't, it was, the memories were sacred to us. And we held on to those burdens like they were burned into us. At least that's how I felt. And did another tour, trained Iraqis how to do telecommunications and military tactics. I was on a border transition team. I was doing, as a corporal, I was doing a master sergeant billet. And my first tour over there, I got enamored with a combat V. My second tour, I got Navy Com.
dude,
Um,
nice.
I spent, like, when I got back from my second time over there, I was actually, a MIT team was trying to scoop me up before I left. I got two offers to go extend to go back with another couple groups of guys, which I was really happy about. And I got out of the Marines because my brother had to push back his wedding for me. And as a guy that didn't have much guidance, it was exactly what it needed to be because I needed the male role models, like the relationships. I needed those words of affirmation. Like I go back to that because it's sometimes we don't know our love language. We don't know what actually really fills our cups. We don't know what actually really resonates with us. And it was just a really interesting spot, like how my Marine Corps shaped me when I got out. but there was just a lot of trauma. And the other thing was is that I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to talk about this stuff. I would drink excessively afterwards. I would chase women afterwards, and my world was very dopamine driven. So it was just it was a time like that where, and I give you a little bit of feedback about why I felt like it was really important for me to connect with you is because, like I said, man, you had really great energy. I remember seeing you going outside in the rain with your shirt off and just enjoying it. I'm like, and I remember at the time, I'm like, man, I wish I had a towel. And I'm like, I'm becoming too old to actually think about this. I need to get back to that childlike mindset. Just enjoy it and then figure it out afterwards.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of the biggest things that I also wanted to talk to you about is because, like, the way that you're able to express yourself and how your own journey shaped you is because, like, the biggest takeaway I want for people that listen to this podcast or other ones is we can be stuck for a while. We cannot know how to articulate it. We could have a lot of baggage. We could be going towards other things that are not healthy or toxic, but we can choose to get away from it. And there's so many good men out there and women, but that really want to see us succeed more than what we think we can succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think the nice thing about these types of relationships is we can see the best in each other, you know? You can see what, when you're vulnerable and you're opening up and you're doing the healing work and you're starting to pick up on these energies, like you can see the common vision, the things that we have in common, what we're doing for the world, how it helps, how it all works, that kind of thing, but also just individually, I see you in a childlike state, I see you in a state where you can be, more free. Like we freaking went and walked around in the pouring rain for fucking an hour, dude. An hour, dude, and just like found a frog and dude, like just it's so cleansing though. It's like that's not an experience you have. It really is kind of like a childlike state. It's like, well, children would do that. Children would go walk around in the rain and in the mud barefoot and have a conversation and just like see what happens. And I think that's where a lot of healing can come. I really fortunate to have my relationship with martial arts the way that I do because I find it really easy for me to connect with kids because I can train and I can roll like a child in a sense where it's not so serious and I'm not just trying to hurt you to prove to I'm not just focused on one outcome that I have deemed, worthy, like this is what I'm going for, I'm open to it being whatever it needs to be. And that's really hard to do when, you know, just real back to reality, I've got a fight in 7 days where there's literally one outcome that gets me paid, and that is, getting my hand raised and winning a fight. But there's winning is not about, winning is the goal, the focal point. That's what we're focused on. But it's changing our perspective of what is winning, like what it like reframing it so that it's a win by just showing up, like I'm winning because I get to meet these awesome people. I'm winning because I get to express whatever it is that I'm going to express in that moment. I'm winning because I get to, you know, um, compete. I'm winning because yeah, I think it's just like creating win-win scenarios. I guess is maybe where I'm going with that. But
You're looking at it not just a transactional or a finite relationship. You're looking at it as, regardless of what is the outcome, you're going in there and pulling out the best intentions that you possibly can instead of just, I get paid or I don't get paid. I'm going to be angry if I lose, and the only way I can be happy is if I win. And forgetting about everything else, the whole journey, the whole experience, and having such a narrow vision to it. Love it, man.
That's really well put. Yeah. Transactional. It's not what love is, man. It's not. It really isn't. It's a fear. It's a lower vibration. It's a fear frequency to get locked into that. It's very scarcity. It's very, there's not enough. It's very, and we all have to work through that. We all have to.
We do, man. Like, when you and I were talking about while we were walking around the rain, we started off with Carl Jung, and you're going for your PhD program. We were talking, then we went into the tower moment, and the way I was explaining about the tarot cards, like when I was explaining to you in the hospital, I was doing a drawing with the phoenix rising up from the tarot, from the tower, and how what I took from it was even though everything crumbles, you get to choose what you want to take from it, or you get to choose what you want to leave. It's
Mhm.
both the same thing, but it's just a different mindset to it. And then the rebirth of the life, the the new beginning, the shedding of the old, the shedding of the weakness, and allowing yourself to take in that new beauty, that new flame, that new energy. It's not truly dying, but it's allowing yourself with all those past information to redirect the course. And
Mm.
mind you, it's raining, barefoot, got mud puddles, freaking grass. The whole somatic area was actually kicking in, shirtless, just enjoying it, man. It was a pleasure to get into that type of conversation. That is where I love to be.
Yeah. 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 It makes a lot more sense this time around too. Because you said Phoenix, and I'm like, that's a trigger word. I'm like, yep, I like want to understand this archetype, like rebirth, death, rebirth. It happens. It's a process. It's going all the time. The tower kind of constantly coming up in my life lately, and just different ways. And it's just these archetypes that we all deal with too. It's these moments in life where it is up to you to reframe, rewrite the story, you know, um, and find the silver linings, because I think there's this constant theme that is reoccurring, or this concept that, we're going doing this medicine work, and it's more than just taking mushrooms. It's in ceremony, it's in container, but it's more than that. The ceremony is built layers and layers and layers, all led by these two beautiful people, Jared and Lindy. And the layers are, it's building camaraderie, it's sharing intentions, talking about intentions, it's building and communicating what works for me. This might work for you. This is what I do for this. This is what came up for me, and this is what is coming up for me. This is what I'm bringing into this experience and all this stuff. But we're doing the medicine. We're going for the intention of um, consuming a sacrament, and then seeing what comes up around all of this energy that we're bringing into this container. And there's two things that could happen. You could, you know, get what you need, and that is also what you want. That's what you wanted. Or you can get what you need and it's not what you wanted, but you're always getting what you need is the point. The medicine in life is the medicine. Okay. It's not a mushroom. It's not combo. It's the life force that we all have. It's spirit is the medicine in a way. And so life, isn't then happening to us. It's happening for us. If it is what we need to pull ourselves back into alignment and live a life of service, live a life that's fulfilling, live a life that is balanced in our relationships. You know, that's kind of where it's brought me all, like all that you were saying, just always at that moment was just, that's what was breaking my brain. It's like, this is so profound. It's so beautiful.
Like honestly, you bring up Jared and Lindy, and like I thought they did a great job for a person, for myself, which was extremely novice. Like just I wasn't really well educated. I was kind of more like person just jumping on the skis and saying fuck it, I'm going full send.
That
And
sometimes you need to do that. That's beautiful, dude. That takes courage. That's awesome.
and I thought when I actually watched the two orchestrate it behind the scenes between the things that we did that led up to it, and how it actually created a physical safe place from the body having convulsings of puking to can't see or limited smell or even having a hard time breathing. And these all sound bad, but it actually built up this trust, this real trust around other people because it was the exposure to it. And when we were exposed to it, we realized that, hey, nobody else is going to hurt us. The other thing that they did too, really, really well, like Lindy's soft spirit, and Jared, he has that tough guy, but it's really just the director of it, and it's like he has this gentle soul to him. And when I was watching it and listening to it and observing, because my brain is very like it analyzes everything, I was like, you just created a space for some warriors of men to be vulnerable. You just created a space to say it's okay to lay on our back, open up our chest, and be okay. You said, like, and the other thing I wanted to go back to is that the medicine gave us what we needed, regardless if that's what we were looking for or not. And I don't think I shared this with you or shared it with yet, but I'm planning on a Tuesday, which is I went in there to figure out what's the next part of my life. And each of the questions that I was asking, I realized I was asking the wrong question. I was not listening to what was the discomforts that I wanted to leave and what was the things that was irritating me to want to grow and change. It's not about where I live. I love my place where I live. It was like I just want to have a different location with a little bit more space.
Mm.
When I look about my sense of service, do I want to be at the macro level or do I want to be at the micro level? Really, what I want to do is just help. I want to help people wherever I can. I want to be a wounded healer. And the retreat was a blessing, and I am grateful that I was able to go. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the next one, which is odd to say because I was like, "Am I going to?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
"Let's do this. Let's actually."
Yeah.
And but I kind of wanted to touch on this with you, and I do want to touch on it with some other people too. Is that historically we go into either talk therapy or here's some psychotropics. We want to be able to help manage the way that we think or the experience of emotions. And then we have a different philosophy of here, let's actually create a safe place and let you be able to self explore it. Let's actually help you start to self explore it inside so you don't need to always talk about it or relive it or to feel stuck. What drew you to the plant medicine life?
Mm. Yeah, man, that also just say like everything you were just saying. It was really really beautiful to hear. Yeah, how you see Jared and Lindy, I think you're spot on. They're just amazing people. And and so spirit led, like they offer so much trust to the universe to like allow people into their home, and their kiddos are around. And one of the most healing things for me is to watch them as parents, and to watch Jared be a father, and these things that I look up to, and so yeah, that's really cool. And it's also really cool to hear that you're pulling at the thread of like creating a relationship with the mushrooms and creating a relationship with combo, and understanding that is, that's nature. That's, it's a vibration, it's a frequency. I think some people get a little freaked out because, it might not be religious or spiritual, or religious enough, or that it might be, like demonic, or but it's fear. That's fear frequency. That is like there's a lot of fear around this. But as veterans, I think we're in a really unique position to lead by example and lead and show what this is. We're not going, we're not just going to like Burning Man and like, going to an orgy tent, like it's saturated in intention, and it is fun too. It's not it's not that it's not fun. It's just the fun comes when after you do the work. You know, it's like work hard, play hard. And part of the work is showing up, work, willing and doing the work on yourself so that you can not only it's like so that you can carry and be able to show up more effective of service for others, you know, and that's what makes it fun for everybody when everybody feels the load being shared, you know, and so I just had to say that with yeah, I'm excited that you're continuing to continue on because it's been so life-giving for me. And my seeds were planted in college, very religiously programmed, and in a lot of ways, I embraced that growing up. Like I said, in high school, I had a come to Jesus moment when I kind of stepped away from opioids and, you know, kind of like gave my life to a little bit like more of a higher power, and that was so good for me. And but with my personality and everything, you know, I started to see through a lot of the bullshit by the time I was after that really dark period of like tore my ACL and cut all this weight and lost my soul in a way, and I was just surrounded by people who called themselves Christians, you know, but I saw so many problems with the culture. I saw so many problems with giving your, you know, giving your, sacrificing your life, but it's like, you know, for, you know, this thing that is not like taking care of you or like giving you life back, or it's abusive. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's a lot of elements of of Christianity and Christian culture that are beautiful, but it's just like that exists in Muslim culture and that exists in you know, all these any culture that has, you know, a religious, you know, backbone. It's like they also have beautiful aspects of it. So it's like I just started to pull at more of the thread of like, you know, this it's fucked up that, you know, my brother died over opioids. It's fucked up that the medical industrial system's the way it is. It's fucked up that we get like we're slaves to the system, but Christian culture is so like passive with like how much we're enslaved. And so I just started to like push back and have a little bit of a rebellious side of like, hey, like why is this so tied to politics, and why are our politics, you know, especially on the right when it comes to Christians, why is it so war centric, and like why are we profiting off of all this oil, and oil is in everything, and petroleum is like petroleum is in everything. Everything's made out of plastic and petroleum, and all these pharmaceuticals are driven by this stuff, so it's all profit driven. It's like, oh, the Vatican is, you know, like the source of all of the 30,000 branches of Christianity. And so I'm just like, it's like, you know, if Christians really had it right, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, there wouldn't be 30,000, you know. So I just started to question it more, you know, and the funny thing is like I've never felt more of more connected to Christ and more connected to um Jesus as a character and as a spirit, you know, than I ever have been. It's just that I feel like I had to disentangle myself from this a relationship with an abusive abuser, you know. And so it took a while to do that. And the seeds were planted in college as I was starting that process, listening to guys like Joe Rogan and like you know, like these podcasts that were just it's different thought, and like that's what Christians think are dangerous, but it's like I was willing to think for myself. That was the change. It's like I think Christians really want to have a savior. That's the whole kind of concept, and is that there is a daddy that's going to save you, or there's an authority that, you know, outside of yourself that's going to come and save you. And it's backwards. Jesus came to teach you that, you know, you save yourself, you know, and that kind of thing. And so I think the open thought and the thinking and it gave me a new perspective of like how to have my own autonomy and agency in my own health and like in my, you know, in my path, on my path and stuff like that. So um, but it opened a lot of difficulties, you know, too, and it just kind of led me on a path. Got married after college, you know, took me a little bit. Joined the Marine Corps, you know, and then by the end of the Marine Corps, I started growing mushrooms. I started growing mushrooms in my closet. And so I started microdosing when I was in the Marine Corps, like the last year and a half. And yeah, man, like I because I knew that there was some value to like what it would do for my jujitsu, and that was always kind of the common thing is like everything was for wrestling, everything was for jujitsu, everything was for performance, but it just kind of pulled at the thread of, oh, this is helping me mentally, helping me get a little bit more aligned and stuff like that. And so as I was pulling at that thread, got a divorce when I got out of the Marine Corps, and that opened up not having that relationship, not having that stress, and then also being single for the first time and in a very unintimate relationship for a good amount of time. You know, had a lot of life force energy behind me. So I just sent it with jujitsu, but I also sent it with like a microdosing jiu-jitsu retreat in Tulum where I met my friends David and Cordy, I then went down to Peru with them, who I then fell in love with somebody there, who I dated, who broke my heart, who like, so the work never ended because I just like continually needed to realize like how do I get myself in these very identical relationships with women. It's like again the medicine, it gives you what you need, not what you want. So
Yeah.
it becomes an adventure.
When you were talking about Christianity, that actually hit me. So I thought about the Crusades. I struggled with my own moral injury about what we did overseas. I thought about like thou shalt not kill, but it's okay if you're in war. I even looked into the Mormon Church. I looked into other churches, and I just found this out recently. The Protestants were one of the biggest people to help push for the 40-hour work week here in America, and
Bastards.
Catholics, they do the same thing. And how religion, or actually how Christianity, it's to me, I believe Christianity or the Bible or God or Jesus is they have a lot of truth to it. And what it is just extremely perverted by men who actually are in power and they're able to twist the words and able to use their own biases so that they're able to get paid off so that the churches are taken care of. And look how grand of a person I am. Like, and I don't want to just totally bash them too much, but pedophilia, what the fuck? Like, this is, we know that this is happening, and yet we're not ousting the people, the criminals of the fucking underworld that are in the church. It makes me disgusted. But past that, it's like when I was in the hospital for 13 weeks, I was looking into frequencies and vibrations. I was looking into like Gaia and Mana, and I was looking into the pretty much like how we get all of our serotonin from our gut. Most of it where we get it, not just here, but how we have the three pretty much information centers, and we have the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. A lot of different religions, they speak so similar on so many aspects, but in Christianity, what we do is we go to something that we're able to simply explain with a man or a person, and we say we're born in our image. It's one of the most fucking ego driven things I've ever heard in my life. And it's like, how could you be able to explain something that has so much power, so much beauty, so much empathy, but then at the same time just put it into this cute little box and say, this is what it is. And to me, it's like, huh. And the the problem with the way my brain works is it's not really always a problem, but once I start to see the distrust or the untruth, I see it everywhere.
Hmm.
And like Christians, they were one of the biggest proponents of continuous slavery, where it's like
Hmm.
if you can't read or write, you're a beast, and so
Hmm.
you could own a beast. We don't talk about that. We don't
Hmm.
usually talk about how distorted our sense of like these organized religions or organized people that were swayed because of money. And they were
Hmm.
not there for the altruistic people, or they were not there for the people. They were there for their own greed. And to me, that has actually swayed so many people from God. Like, I remember hearing one person say, holy fuck, I don't hate God. I hated my mother for the way that she used and abused the way that she used God and distorted it. Did I lose you?
I still see you. Do you still see me? There,
You
I'm
still
good.
there?
Yeah, it just said reconnecting for a minute, but it looks good.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you hear what I said or?
Yep, what you were saying was, oh, I don't hate God. I figured out I hated my mother,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, powerful.
But like the mushrooms and the psychedelics and all the other inners, it's not about just getting high, like you said, not going to Burning Man, but it's more of you're being there and you're setting intentions. You're looking for the inner thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Well, what you just said, I feel like is so powerful. What you like, you come to a realization. It's like, oh, maybe I don't hate God or the universe. I just have this wound, and I freaking resent my mother so much. Just for example. And it's like your mother represented God at one point. Your mother was the portal that brought you into this realm. Like you're like God. People like to, especially in Christian cultures, is very patriarchal. Like God the Father, like pray to God the Father or whatever it is. But God is mom and God is dad. Like God has those elements to it. It's like it's everything. It is all. There's no way to like encapsulate it in any one thing. But it's like we have this relationship with mother and father, and that's really important. Then once you heal that, okay, I'm good with mom, and you start to have that freedom, it will all come back to how you relate to yourself. It's like how do you view yourself? What is your relationship to yourself? Because God created you. Like, you are the created. That means that you are in the image of God. You are divinity. You can do as God does by the mere fact that he created you. Except you can't create God. It's like you can just create as God created. And so
Hmm.
now we have this sort of like ability to recognize our divinity just by the mere fact that we are creators, and God creates out of love. So that's the gift, is like a relationship with yourself, understanding we are in some way. It's like it, it is coming to a better understanding of who you are. And it's like a lot of this work is just like peeling back like all the ways in which we belittle ourselves, cover our light up, like we are essentially doing the work to rewire how we treat ourselves, and that will in turn rewire how we relate to others, which is another image of God. If everybody is in their own way, they're fractal of God. It's like they are mirrors to you as to what you are, and you are a mirror to them as to what they are, which is created, you know, by God, as God.
And it's interesting. It's like you start to pull these things out because you start to add space between something that was causing these friction. And you were starting to realize that it wasn't just the friction, there was something that was behind it that was actually was causing the discomfort, causing the deregulation to be able to get connected to it. Like one of the things I think about when just we could talk about the container or we could talk about just the cult that we were in the Marine Corps. It's you're with people that you love, that you respect, that you care about. And at the same time, it's like you're not alone while you're doing this, and you're able to be seen, you're able to be heard. But then, like, you go to this organized religion, you go to this building, which you're told this is where you find God, and then all of a sudden, you're like, what about this? And then all of a sudden, don't look there. What about this? Don't ask those questions. What about this? I don't know about that. But here, can you put your money here? Can you put your money into this thing? And it makes it hard for me because like I have really really bad trust issues. I want to become strong and I want to become great because I don't want somebody else to have power over me. I want to be able
Mhm,
to fight my way out if I need to. I don't want to be restrained.
mhm,
So not only physically but mentally, like I read quite a bit. I am one, and to me it's just that freedom. And when I see people that are really just themselves, they're that they don't want to say perfect, but they are perfectly aligned with who they are.
mhm,
If that makes sense, like they have stripped away their mask. They have stripped away what they believe people want them to think. Like they took away this whole facade and said, "Here I am. This is me, and accept me or don't. That's okay." And I get drawn to people like that, where they are just like the purest form because trying to love somebody or care about somebody through cracks. The cracks are different masks that they're wearing. You don't really get a chance to fully see a person. You don't get a fully chance to connect with a person. It is
Mhm.
just this imaginary wall that keeps you from being able to get close and then be like, oh, this always happens when I get vulnerable and allow them to be seen. Well, were you allowing yourself to be seen the whole time? Were you doing a switch and bait with somebody? Was it actually a facade of what you wanted? Were you actually producing that energy to connect with the other human that you said that you want? And
Yeah,
there's so many questions that come up in my brain, but I don't believe
yeah.
that
I can still hear you, but you're
this is
frozen.
actually
Can you
like
hear
a
me?
known conversation. So to me, this all leads into mental health issues, and it leads into us just being stuck.
Hey, I lost you for about 10 seconds, but I caught what you were saying about facades and wearing masks.
Yeah, so like I was getting at was this like what I believe is with mental health. Like, hey, how do you actually connect to somebody? Is if you have these layers on you and you're not allowing yourself to be seen or heard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll cause some discomfort, like those wearing those masks, like it like especially if you're in pursuit of, sovereignty, coming into your purpose, living a life of alignment. Like if you're in pursuit of that, like you're authentic, like you're in pursuit of authenticity, you're in pursuit of knowing yourself and um yeah, being of service. That stuff doesn't last, it's one, people will see through it, and you'll start to notice that people see through it, but you see through it. It's like, I think we truly know. I've definitely had feelings of that. Like, I know when I got my divorce and I started dating again, it was like re-meeting myself, like through other people. It's like, why do I act this way around? And it's really only women. Like in most other areas of my life, I realized I was living pretty authentically, and I was just, okay with rejection and stuff like that. But then, you get back into the dating scene, and then you start to like, um yeah, like question a little bit more. It's like, why did I say that? Like, why am I? So but it's a good process. It's part of the healing. I mean, I've realized, like, going on this spiritual path, like this journey to understanding myself and living in authenticity, figuring out like what it is I can do to be of service, and live my, kind of like the highest version of myself. um I You learn through relationship. We learn through the archetype of a brother, like me and you. We learn through the concepts of friendship. We're building that, these frameworks around friendship and brotherhood, and we're building. um I mean, I'm building a greater sense of what it is to be devoted by meeting these women. Like, my sense of devotion went through the roof when I met this last woman, that I came to understand what it is to have willpower, and when it's pointed in a direction that is life-giving, it's unstoppable. It's like this force that's like multiplies and is amplified when you're with the right people, when you're with aligned people. And that relationship really was aligned until it wasn't. And that's the crazy thing about death and letting go and surrender, is like you don't actually really get to control when and how things go. It's like you just have to be able to go with the flow.
Yeah, like one of the things I learned, and I remember it was actually something I learned or rediscovered after I got divorced myself, was being grateful for whoever walks the path with me, and when they have to leave, be okay with that too, and know that they're not always forever there. And it's a really interesting thing because, like, I don't know if you felt this way when you went through your divorce. It was like, what happened and what was the relationship that was failing? What was the components that I was in control of? Taking them out of the aspect and saying, what am I doing that is creating this narrative? What am I doing that is actually forcing this to us to be stuck? If you
Okay.
actually Go ahead.
I got you again. Yep, I got you up to the point where you said, "What am I doing to create this narrative?" Yeah,
Yeah, like creating this narrative. What is this narrative that I'm repeating? What is the cycle that is causing me to be stuck? And how do I actually get away from it? How do I actually allow myself to be part of this relationship? And what are some of the components that are taking away?
yeah, yeah, man. I've learned so much about marrying my inner masculine and feminine. I think that's always been the relationship because codependency is such a common human I think trial. I think some people, master it quicker than others or, whatever, but it's like codependency. Um and then yeah, learning how to, be independent and then also, be able to sacrifice, for things. And I think it's a core human desire to be, in union with somebody, someone who amplifies your ability to show up in the world and to produce and to serve and to live a fulfilled life. I think as a society we are sick for that. Like we hunger for that and we desire that, but for some people it's a fairy tale, or it's, there's limiting beliefs around it. And I kind of realize that there are, have been some limiting beliefs around it for me. And I think that's the process that I've been in. It's like healing that codependence and sort of like learning how to, nurture and then let go. It's like be grateful when you're with, and because all you have is that present moment who is with you at that time. It's like even in the micro, it's like you're not always going to be with your person, even if you are married or whatever. It's like you still have to be okay with the letting go of things. And then at the end of the day or at the end of the lifetime, that person, you know, is going to die, you know, and you are going to have to let go.
Man, I appreciate these words of wisdom. And yeah, dude, it's easy just to vibe with you, man. You just give off this such a great freaking energy, dude.
Well, let's do it more often, man. This is yeah, this is perfect, This is what we need to be doing, is just shooting the shit and talking and creating community. And more people will come onto your or come into your podcast community because what you're doing is good, man. It's of service, and there's a lot of people that need to hear and want to learn and want to hear, the experiences that we're having. So like I've just learned that like a lot of service is just showing up.
Yeah.
You're doing it. You're doing it. Appreciate you doing this, man.
So can you just let me know where I can watch it, or if because I'm
Hmm.
gonna be releasing this on Tuesday, and so you're gonna be fighting on next Saturday. So where could people watch the fight?
Yeah, it's actually next Friday, on the 6th. It'll be on YouTube, Subversive Jiu-Jitsu. You can get on my Instagram, it's JJ. There'll be links there. But yeah, it'll be on Subversive's YouTube. I'll drop the link in our group chat so you don't have to worry
Thank
about
you,
it or anything, but yeah, we streamed on the old YouTube
dude. I am
Friday night.
excited to watch it happen, man. Dude, it's such a pure freaking heart, and
It's
I'm
gonna be
just
wild, dude. There's gonna be like a DJ. I'll be the last match, the main event. I've never been the main event of anything. Like I've always been. I was really high up on the card for the last one when I fought Jesse Taylor, who I don't know if I told you about that match or not, but last September at the Hard Rock Cafe in San Diego,
hmm,
it was like this rooftop pool bar scenario, and I was fighting. I was fighting a combat jiu-jitsu match. I was fighting Jesse Taylor, who won the Ultimate Fighter twice. So I'm literally fighting this like savage that should have killed me, but I beat him, and it was, yeah, super fun environment, dude. It's gonna be a good time. I'm gonna walk out in my bear suit. Have you seen my bear suit
I
yet?
did, man.
Hell yeah,
Yeah, man, dude. It was like it's so interesting. It was like you're giving so much credit to this guy, and it's just so much like love and respect to this guy, and you're like Yeah, I beat him, but it was just like really downplayed yourself, and it's like you're just such a fucking badass. Like,
Yeah, I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. I feel like I have a hard time conceptualizing how it looks from other people, but when I get to see it from your eyes, it is such a blessing. Like, and so I just want to make sure that I feel the responsibility of what, what I can do to influence people for what matters. 'Cause it's like, dude, it's just fighting. I, it's freaking cool, but it's also, what can we do to I just don't want to get too caught up in it, you know? Even even if it goes as far as, like it could take off, it could be better than I ever imagined. Like this entertainment stuff is pretty wild. Like I'm out here in Hollywood, near Hollywood, I'm meeting like people who are in the movies, and like there's people who know directors, and there's, it's like I don't know what I'm gonna get myself into. I just do my day and live in the moment, and watch me end up getting on a fucking movie with Tom Hardy. I don't, and so it's like I don't want to get caught up in it. It's like it sounds awesome, and that would make sense, it makes sense to me, but I want to live right now while I'm poor and doing my thing. I want to create the relationships with guys like you, knowing what, knowing what we're doing. I don't want to get lost in the, I don't want to get lost in the hype, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it's cool, but it's like there's really important things to be done, really important things to be talked about. And I think in an environment like this, it would be really easy to start putting masks back on, And so, you get to hold me accountable. I got community with Jared of Lindy. They'll hold me account. But then we also have a mission, we also have like the things that matter. And that's like, oh, freaking, we can talk about our mental health and all of our things, and we can all cry together, and then, you know, get stronger.
yeah,
Change the
dude.
world.
That's exactly what it is. It's just getting back to the basics. But dude, I hope the best for you, and I hope that you stay the humble man that you are, the innocent, good soul, dude. And if they decide to
Amen.
actually have a Thor Ragnarok or a little baby Thor, I think that you'd be ready to rock and roll with that one too. But
Baby Thor. I like it. Thanks,
ba-
man.
baby Thor. But yo, I appreciate you, Jared. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Thanks, bro.